Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Hope in the Time of Corona. My name's Sophie and today we have an interview. You might have seen that we've done a couple of these. We had one with James Brown a few weeks ago and one with Emma A. Church. And today we have Aisling with us. So welcome Aisling, it's great to have you. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you, Sophie. Thank you for giving me the chance to have a chat with you today. Really looking forward to it.
Oh, such a joy. So firstly, I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Aisling. From the name, some of you might have worked out or know that I'm originally from Ireland. So I moved from Dublin to London about 13 years ago. And I've predominantly actually lived roughly around North London for a good chunk of that. I've always loved living near Highbury and Islington, Holloway. So currently I live up near Finsbury Park. So what do I do when I'm not a part of the Hope Church congregation? I'm what we call a management consultant. I work with Deloitte, similar to what Simon used to do up until about a year ago. So that means I do a lot of projects for clients and I get to travel a fair bit around Europe, the US, Asia. Obviously during lockdown it's been a complete change of scene and sight for me, but definitely been trying to make the most of that. And outside of work, well, some of you might have seen as well, I really love to cook. Cooking and eating is a big hobby of mine. And before this lockdown, I used to kind of eat out a lot and kind of make recommendations to friends about good places to go. But since lockdown kicked off, I've really enjoyed kind of rediscovering what it's like to cook for myself. And I also love to read. I read all sorts of things. I've always been a big, voracious reader since I was little. So those two things, thankfully, are conducive to lockdown during these times. So that's a little bit about me.
Amazing. And as you say, Simon, my husband, used to work at Deloitte. I know it's quite full on working there, and you travel a lot, don't you? So how's that? What does, outside of lockdown, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so before lockdown, it varied. So I've done everything from traveling every single week. So I've done a couple of projects, say in Switzerland and Germany, where Monday to Thursday I'd fly out Monday morning, work with the client on site until maybe Thursday or Friday, and then fly back. And then in the last couple of years, I've had a slightly more exciting travel agenda. So maybe once or twice a month, I'm either maybe once in Europe and then once in Asia or the US for a week. And it's a lot of it's about meetings and kind of, a lot of it's about projects. The work I do is really about the strategy and the kind of future of where our client or our own organization goes, and kind of having discussions with people. I think the main thing about it is actually being on the ground with people and getting to see them face to face. You build a rapport, you understand their culture, their concerns, what matters to them. But it keeps me on the road for, I would say, most, maybe 3/4 of the year. So shifting into lockdown has been a huge change because the kind of 2 months prior to lockdown I was commuting to Belgium every week, and then suddenly that sort of stopped. So part of this lockdown has been a big readjustment to working from home, first of all, which I rarely do, but then trying to stay engaged with all the teams around the world, which means, as many of you are probably finding as well, like long days on Zoom chats or team chats, because you're trying to start early for Asia and then you're finishing late to stay in touch with the Americas. So it's been pretty intense, but as I said before, trying to balance it and make the most of what we have at home at the same time.
Yeah, amazing. And when you are in London, you are part of Hope Church. So how did you come to be part of Hope Church? And what service do you go to? Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm predominantly a member of the 11. Sometimes I will come to the 5 as well if I've been traveling and couldn't make the 11. How I found Hope Church was about 6 years ago now, I think. I moved on to Fieldway Crescent, which some of you will know is literally the little street directly across from St. Mary's, right by the library. And I've been looking for a new church to go to for quite some time. And I looked across the road and I was like, well, if I can't make it to a church that is 2 minutes from my front door, what hope do I have, quite literally? So I walked into one, pretty soon after I moved into that flat, I decided to start going to Hope. I met a few people like Pippa Quayle and others, and just meeting people like her and, similar like-minded people at the 11 sort of convinced me that I should give it a shot. And even though with the travel, I think, especially in the earlier years, it's been a bit on off for my attendance, I've kind of really enjoyed becoming a member of the Hope Church congregation.
That's amazing. And you volunteer in a few different capacities. So you're a Spear trustee.
Yeah.
You also lead life group with me and Simon. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, actually, I got involved. It took me a few years actually to get involved with things at Hope Church. I think I was sort of bit of a kind of refinding my faith and refinding a place for myself. And it started off with Paul and Colin asking me to help with projection, which I discovered once you get past the initial nerves of, do I get it to the right slide? It's actually quite enjoyable. It makes you really actually pay attention and be even a deeper part of the service. Mm-hmm. And then I got involved with the life groups, which was really good. And more recently now, since we've refreshed the life group, kind of co-hosting with yourself and Simon, which has been really exciting as well, especially seeing how quickly the group has grown and expanded. So happy to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But also it must be almost 2.5-3 years ago now, Paul asked me to become a trustee of Spear just after the church had gotten involved with Resurgo and with setting up Spear. So I've been working as one of the trustees, and it's been a really interesting, challenging and, rewarding role. All the things that Mel, Emma and the others have been doing around the kind of the young people in the church, well, not in the church, but in Spear, kind of bringing them through the course, through their journey with Spear. It's been, really humbling, because some of those young people just, they have so little compared to what we might take for granted. And a lot of it's to do with kind of confidence in self and, how do they find their own way forward. And it's just seeing the confidence that they get from going through Spear that's been really, really rewarding. But it's not without its challenges. As I said before, as a trustee, one of our jobs is to make sure that we've got the funding to carry on the centre, that we've got the right people interested in volunteering to help. And I'll say a big thank you, a big shout out to everybody in Hope who has helped us with sponsored walks, sponsored gala dinners, and with the crowdfunding we did earlier this year. So it's been a really interesting part of my journey as part of the Hope Church community.
That's amazing. I love Spear as well. I help with a course called Torch, and the young people that you're talking about and seeing their journey is so special. It's such an important thing that we do. And then Life Group, I guess I just wanted to do a bit of a shout out to Aisling, that you are so generous, Aisling. You, when you're around, you cook the most amazing food. And I actually made a biryani that you made us at One Life Group, because I felt very inspired by your cooking. But also you've given Simon and I a set of keys, because you do travel a lot with work, so that we can just open up your lovely home and host even when you're not there. So I'd love to hear a bit about what hospitality means to you, because that strikes me as very generous hospitality.
Oh, well, thank you, Sophie. It was really funny because when I kind of talked to you and Simon and Matt about kind of reinvigorating a life group and being a part of that, I'm sort of an all-in person. If I'm going to commit to something, I want to do it and I want to do it well. So that's why it was kind of very easy for me to go, right, I know you guys through the church, we've talked, I trust you guys with my home, and, trust the others that come into the home, right? And so it was sort of an instinctive decision of, well, I can't be there, but I don't want to disrupt the great kind of community we have with our life group. So that was, oddly enough, that was an easy decision to make. And it fills me with a lot of happiness to know that even if I can't be there, we're meeting together. And obviously we've got quite an active WhatsApp group as well. So I've always felt that even if I wasn't there in person, we still reach out to each other through the chat, and people kind of, share prayer requests, and you can still feel part of the life group. So that was a big thing for me. And then it's so funny because I remember that we did a sermon series on food in the Bible and how that kind of played out, and I sometimes think of myself a little bit as a Martha, really wanting to make sure that if we have food or if we're setting up the flat for everybody, that it's like as welcoming and as inviting as it can be. But I think the nice thing about our life group is because everyone pitches in, you sort of feel like, well, you can be a Martha at the beginning, but shift into a Mary mode and sit there and listen and kind of learn from everybody else, which is something I kind of have to remind myself not to forget about. But as I said before, I love to cook, and sometimes because I live by myself, it's kind of not so much fun to cook for one person. So when we have our life group together, it's a chance for me to kind of pull out the stops and kind of try and do something a little bit more elaborate or bigger than usual, which is quite fun.
We love it. And you often do like themed nights, don't you? Kind of mix it.
I like a big theme. I like it to carry through.
And we enjoy eating it. So thank you. And finally, I'd love to hear a bit about what it's been like for you during lockdown. We've been in this situation for about 2 months now, and you've been a very present part of the community at Hope Church during that time. So how has this been for you, and how's it been being part of Hope during lockdown?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because, as I kind of said at the beginning, with lockdown, from my work life, it's been a complete shift of how I operate and go about it. And then in my personal life as well, I tend to be quite active out of the weekend, seeing friends and seeing family. So I've had to really readjust my whole life. But I suppose one of the really big positives actually is, and big shout out to you, Sophie, Matt, and the Hope team for putting on such a good series of things for us. I kind of decided earlier on that this was an excellent opportunity for me just to take advantage of everything that Hope was putting together and to really get involved with it in a way that I might not have been able to had I been traveling or maybe made other personal commitments. So for me, this has been a really big bonus of lockdown and sort of rediscovering what it means to connect with the church. And I remember some of the earlier Hope in the Time of Corona videos, there was kind of a question around, what does it mean to be church in this time of lockdown? And I know it's hard not getting to see everybody in person, but I oddly feel more connected to Hope Church through all the kind of daily series, but also because I really enjoy the 11 o'clock discussion with the sermon. It's not something we had before. And I was saying it last week, actually, I feel really blessed to learning more about how each other thinks and how we each approach these topics, because it's not something that we would all necessarily do on a Sunday, gather around and chat. And then with our life groups, it's been amazing. So for those of you who don't know, we've been taking turns to share our testimony and really getting to know each member of our life group more personally. And everyone has been amazing at kind of sharing their story, being a bit vulnerable, opening up. I've learned things that I didn't know about people before that you might not ordinarily get the chance to do in sort of that bigger group discussions. So for me, it's been, really, really different, but in such a good way. And, I'm thinking as we come out of lockdown, how do we keep some of these things that have meant so much to me and, have kind of, as I said, reconnected me in a way to the church that I hadn't been before. So I'm definitely taking it as a big positive out of lockdown. I think most people who know me actually realize that I've been super positive about lockdown because it's completely changed what I can focus on. And oddly, it's because I think, and I've heard people don't mind me sharing, it's because it's less of a FOMO feeling about some of the things that you might miss if you committed to other things. And so part of me is like, I don't want to lose that. So as we come out of lockdown, I'm really thinking about how do I balance out the new things I've discovered that I really like and enjoy being a part of with the kind of back to normal demands that you get on your time. So it's going to be a balancing act, but it's been quite good. And I've really enjoyed kind of being a more active member, I guess, of the Hope Church community through this time.
That's so good. And it's so good to think about the kind of positives that we can find in the last couple of months as well. What's been good about it, and what we want to kind of take forward when we do return to some kind of normal beyond this. Well, thank you so much, Aisling. Is there anything else, any last words you'd like to say before we finish this interview?
Just to say to everybody, right, I know it's been tough and everyone's been adjusting to lockdown in their own ways, but it's through things like this, just having a chat, kind of learning more about each other as a congregation and as individuals, as well as kind of a community, that there's definitely something really rich here. And I really hope we don't lose that. And I hope that we can continue to strengthen that, because it's, really important, and it's really inspiring for me anyway to learn from everybody else. So thank you. And thank you, Sophie, for giving me this chance to talk.
Oh, it's been so great. And thank you, everybody, for watching. It's been great to have you for this episode of Hope in the Time of Corona. We hope you have a good rest of your day. And I hope you have a good rest of your day too, Aisling.
Thanks.
Bye.